learn about tips and tricks regarding SQL, which will help you out in interviews and making your learning more smarter. This is just a start. We are going to focus on more topics in SQL with respect to real-time implementation in corporates. So, keep following and be updated for more.
Hi guys, this is Gurneet. In this video, we are going to look at one of the tricks that are used in SQL. The problem statement that we are going to discuss in today's video is how to replace null values in SQL. Looking at the problem statement, the question that pops in our mind is, what are null values? The SQL null value is a term that is used to represent missing value. The field with a null value is a field with no value. So it's very important to understand that a null value is very much different than the zero value. We need to replace null values because it can cause problems while selecting a data. For instance, that if we have a data and we need to compare a non-null value to any other value, the result will always be an unknown value. So it's advisable to check using operators like is null or is not null in our database to check whether or not there are any null values present in our data set. So we will be solving our today's problem statement using coalesce function. Now, what a coalesce function does is it handles the null values in our data set. What it does is it accepts a number of records, evaluates them by order, and then returns the first non-null value in the records. For example, if we have a data set with the values null, null, 4, and null. So what the coalesce function will do, it will find out the first non-null value, which will be 4 in our case, and it will return the output as 4. We can also use the replace, which is our problem statement for today. What it will do is it will replace the null values with the whatever value which will be inputting. For example, if I say coalesce using the syntax select coalesce and the column to check will be the values, and then the value to replace with will be the value that we need to input. For like in our case, I'll be writing down column to check will be the column name, and then the value to replace will be 8 from the table. So the output for this particular query will be 8 8 4 and the again 8. So this is what coalesce function does. Now we'll jump into our MySQL server to look at the problem statement and solve it using coalesce function. So the problem statement says to replace null values in SQL. So our first step is to create the table. So we'll write create table, the table name, which is, and then the first value is the person ID. Int constraint primary. I'll be explaining this line in a bit. Then the name, which is a varchar. Then gender, again varchar 50. And then we will be closing the bracket. Now, the line that I wrote is constraint, the ID name, and the primary key. Now, what a primary key is, it basically uniquely identifies the row. So let me execute it. So it says the commands completed successfully. Now what it says is that primary key is nothing but in our table we have a column which has unique values and no null values. That column is called a primary key. So in our case, the person ID is the primary key. Now since our table has been created, we need to insert values into our table. So insert into table name person 1. Then what are the values that we'll be writing? Values, bracket, first is 101, then the name Sam, then again commas, what is the gender? Male. So this is how we will be filling out our values into our table. This is how I'll be filling. So when I execute this query, it says 7 rows affected, which means that 7 rows has been filled in our table. So we'll just check it out. Select asterisk from table name, right? And we'll execute this query. So this is our table. Now we need to come back to our problem statement, and now you can see in the table that we have null values in our table. In the column name and in the column gender, we have 3 null values. So how will we replace the null values? We'll write down select now the primary key, which is p underscore id, comma. Now we need to, as you can see, we do not have any null values in our primary person id, which is because it's a primary key. So we won't be using coalesce function in this one. Now since we have null values in our name and gender, what we'll do is we'll write down coalesce name comma, we can replace the name with and then comma, again what is the column name? Gender, and replace the values with male, right? And then from the table name, what is the table name? Person 1, right? Now let me execute this. So as you can see that the null values has been replaced with the function, with the name. In this one hail, and in this one all the values has been filled with male. So I hope this problem statement is clear. You can also do it, you can also combine these two. Now you can see that there is no column name. So what I'll do is, as I didn't name those columns, so as name, and this one as gender. So I'll again execute it. So now you can see, but the other way you can solve it, you can also combine these two columns. I'll just copy this, and now instead of using it like this, you can also do it, you can combine it, and the values will be for both the columns will combine. So what I'll do is I'll write down name comma gender, then sorry, as value. Let me try. See, now you can see that the values has been inserted. So I hope this is clear. Thanks for watching.